What is good, YouTube family? It's your boy Shot, back again. Got another video for y'all, doing something a little different today. So, with the recent announcement of Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, well, it was announced a while ago, but now we finally got a title for it. It was Breath of the Wild sequel, now it's Tears of the Kingdom. And they did a new trailer for it and all this awesome stuff, but here's one problem. We have no idea what's really going to be in the game. They're just giving us all these teasers and stuff. And I don't know if they got the feedback that they need. And I don't know what you guys want, but I know what I want to see in the next Zelda game. Some things from Breath of the Wild were missing. So in this video, I just plan on covering that. A little different from what I normally do on this channel, but I feel like I had to, with The Legend of Zelda being one of my favorite series of all time. Had to do it. So without further ado, I'm going to list 5 things in my wish list that should be included in Breath of the Wild sequel / Tears of the Kingdom. Let's go. One of the classic things that they need to go back to is old school items. I was a little disappointed in Breath of the Wild because they didn't have any of the old school items in there. You pretty much have the majority of what you're gonna have at the beginning of the game, and by the end of the game, you pretty much got the same stuff, and you're just missing some of the classic items like from the older Zelda games, such as like the boomerang, the hook shot, which is one of my all-time favorites, the hammer. They could even throw in like the spinner from Twilight Princess to kind of change it up a little bit, make it where there needs to be some sort of logical progression and not just something where it's so much of an open world that you just have everything from the beginning. Make me find some stuff required to go to the next place. That's one of the most exciting things about Zelda is its open yet somewhat linear progression system where you need XYZ item to access XYZ place. It makes sense to me, and I definitely feel like they missed the mark on that with Breath of the Wild, but we'll see. The second thing, and I may even get some hate for this one, is enemy variety. So a lot of games do this, but I hate it every time they do it, where they reuse the same freaking enemies all the time and they just put them in like a different color, a different shade. They might have like one new ability or something, which they probably held back from the original enemy anyway. So it's not like they put in like additional work for that same enemy when it's like a different color change or something. It's like really trivial, really annoying when they do that too often. And I know that a lot of games do this, but not every game does it. Like look at games like Immortals Phoenix Rising, which is essentially Breath of the Wild except different characters and world. They don't really do that as much in that game. Other games that are in a kind of a similar vein, but kind of different, like Horizon Zero Dawn, for example, pretty much has like all these different enemy types. So you really don't see like the whole color changing enemy where it's pretty much the exact same enemy except with like it takes up more damage and it takes more hits to kill. Like you just don't see that all the time, and I feel like they kinda went a little overboard. I mean, for crying out loud, you got like 5 different types of bokoblins and moblins, and a lot of the enemies have a similar fighting style. Like there's not really like a whole lot that they do. They're not particularly challenging except for the Lynels, and even with the Lynels they kind of do repeat boss fights for that as well, with only slight differences. I feel like why not just come up with an entirely different enemy? You know, I feel like they definitely did better in the older games, and I understand the reason why. It takes a lot of time to develop like the graphics, the animations for all the different enemies, but I still feel like they just need to put in the extra time, spruce up the enemy variety, the enemy designs, and I think we're looking at a much better sequel.
I've been waiting for you, Link.
Here's another controversial one. Voice acting. The Legend of Zelda series is awesome in its own right, but just in general, this is like a thing with most Nintendo games where I don't know if they're just really opposed to it, or maybe they're just really afraid of it, or maybe they don't want the extra expense. I don't know what the heck the reason is. Maybe it's a combination of all those things. Maybe they're just set in their ways. I love Nintendo games, but they really need to bump it up, spruce up the quality, and include some freaking voice acting. Like, What's stopping you? I don't understand. Somebody let me know if there's some sort of reason for this outside of the reasons I just mentioned, or if you can confirm any of the reasons I just mentioned. But I really feel like that would enhance the series a lot. I find myself expanding my game variety in terms of the stuff that I play over the years has expanded, and when I experience these really heavy, hard-hitting AAA games, and then I kind of go back and play some of the Zelda games, I'm like, oh yeah, you know, they probably should make some improvements here and there, and voice acting is definitely one of those places, especially in the modern age. A lot of folks don't like reading, such as myself, so let's get some voice acting, Nintendo.
You've killed me!
Good.
This next one might be a bit unexpected, honestly, because I don't think I've heard too many people mention stuff like this, but this is something that was a sore spot for me that I definitely felt like something was missing without having it in Breath of the Wild, and it was some sort of musical instrument. For example, Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask and Wind Waker all had some sort of instrument that you could play, and that really enhanced the experience, at least for me, especially in Ocarina of Time. Is literally in the title of the game, and it's a critical element of the game, even though I honestly feel like they could have created the entire game without the Ocarina. It seemed as though that was a strategic decision, because now that I think about it, even Link to the Past had an instrument like this. It's just that Ocarina of Time really utilized it more, and they really took advantage of it in a lot of the games that came after that, but it seemed like they just kind of just forgot about it, or just decided just not to include it in Breath of the Wild. And something about that instrument really made it feel like something was missing for me. It's hard to explain, but I think any of you all that felt the magic behind those older games, I think you understand what I mean. Let's bring that magic back and include an instrument. That's what I think we need. Last but not least, the most important thing that they definitely need, that I honestly was very disappointed in, even though I liked the game, so don't everybody jump down my throat all at once, was the dungeons in Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild sequel, Tears of the Kingdom, really needs to step it up. Have longer dungeons, more dungeons. It doesn't make sense to have this game world that's like 100 plus hours. Who knows how long I played that game? 100 plus hours long game, and you only have 4 main dungeons. In the last place didn't even feel like a dungeon, you know, Ganon's castle or whatever. That just kind of felt more like I went there and I sped through it, not even on purpose. I feel like I was only there for like 30 minutes, and then I fought the boss and that was over. And most of the dungeons, all the divine beasts, they were really cool, but it was more about finding your way into the divine beast rather than completing the insides of the beast as an actual dungeon. I feel like those dungeons took between like 30 to 45 minutes on average, and that was like my first time playing them with no guides or anything. I know I'm kind of good at Zelda games now, but I've literally taken longer playing like Link's Awakening and Link to the Past. Like some of the dungeons in there can be quite confusing and difficult, whereas these were just like really kind of pathetic considering the scope of the game and how amazing the game was overall. I really feel like they kind of dropped the ball on the actual dungeons in Breath of the Wild. In the sequel, I really want to see them step it up and go all out with the dungeons. That's one of the most important things, and to me is pretty much like the most important thing behind Zelda, and like what is the real draw when you really start to get this feeling of being in danger, and you know, danger around every corner, and not knowing if a new enemy or boss is gonna show up, and oh my god, how do you solve this crazy puzzle, you know? Or even the music, I feel like they need to step up with Breath of the Wild 2's dungeons. Like, just make it really ominous and just I need to feel intimidation when I play Breath of the Wild's sequels. I keep calling it Breath of the Wild sequel instead of Tears of the Kingdom because the title just came out, so you guys will have to excuse me for that. But Tears of the Kingdom's dungeons, I really just want to see be an improvement overall with mini bosses, longer dungeons, more of them to begin with. Instead of just more shrines, I want actual more big dungeons. That would be a huge improvement for me, as well as even the bosses in the dungeons. You know, most of those weren't too great. They all pretty much looked the same, really similar. You guys know what I mean if you play the game, so I definitely think they need to improve on that. That's the most important thing for me. So, quick recap here. Classic items, better enemy variety, voice acting for all characters, besides Link, of course, some sort of instrument, and more dungeons. That's my top 5 things that I think Tears of the Kingdom needs. Really looking forward to this game. I'm sure that I'll love the game regardless, because Breath of the Wild, for example, is one of my all-time favorite Zelda games and one of my all-time favorite games, period, even with some of the things I want to see improved in Tears of the Kingdom. I'm hoping it's going to be an improvement in every way. They're taking forever to develop this game, so we'll see. Hopefully they do all of this and more and really surprise me, and I can't wait to be floored by this. But for anyone who's waiting and can't wait till 2023 when they finally release this game, Immortals Fenyx Rising is out. It's essentially Zelda Breath of the Wild. It's very similar. It literally has almost all the exact same formulas. You have most of your abilities from the beginning of the game. There's 4 main dungeons, and I believe there's like one final dungeon. Huge open world, really crazy game. I did a review for this, it had to be like a year ago, a long time ago. Be sure to check that out. I'll have a link somewhere, or I'll link it in the comments, or I'll put it up on the screen, something so you can check it out if you have not seen it. If you really love Zelda, definitely play that game and check out my review if you're skeptical, and you'll see what it's all about. It is quite humorous, has voice acting. It actually addresses some of the criticisms here. Of course, not all of them because it's not Zelda, so it's impossible, but you'll see if you play the game and watch the review. That aside, I appreciate everybody taking time to watch this video. A little different from any of the videos I made in the past. I might do some more of these, depending on how it goes. You know, if I get enough likes, enough views, we'll see. Anyway, I appreciate everybody watching. Be sure to like if you enjoy the video. Subscribe if you're new. I have a Twitter account. Follow me on Twitter if you have an account. Twitter.com/RashadLamar. I appreciate everybody watching. I'll catch y'all next time. Peace.